All right, welcome everybody to the Heart Coherence Collaborative. I am so excited to have our good friend Waxela here with us. Probably a few months ago, she came on the Quantum Healing Collective and gave one of the most mind-blowing presentations I've ever heard on all these incredible topics that are so interesting to everybody today, like the new Earth, 5D, Ascension, and everyone in the Quantum Healing Collective was absolutely blown away. And so we're so excited to have you as a part of our 21-day Heart Coherence Challenge.
Yes. So I would love to just introduce you with your general biography in case people were not with us for that. Waxela Sananda is a galactic shaman, spiritual ascension trainer, activator of spiritual gifts, and embodiment coach. Waxela works with her clients in multiple dimensions, creating and holding space for each one to receive exactly what is needed to move into a higher state of awareness and to clear old blocks and patterns.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Waxela, for being with us. This is like really exciting. I have so many questions for you, but first we're going to dive into the heart, and then we'll turn it over to you. So if everybody could focus your attention in the area of your heart and imagine that your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area, breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. Try a pace of 5 seconds on the in-breath, 5 seconds on the out-breath, in and out through the heart. Now, as you're breathing in and out of your heart, feel the power of your heart, the strength of your heart. Feel the blood pumping in your heart. And think, what are you thankful your heart's guided you to do in this life? What are you happy your heart's made happen for you?
And next, keeping that pace of breathing in 5 seconds, out 5 seconds, in and out of your heart. Imagine yourself in a place that is passive and tranquil and relaxing. Maybe it's a beach where the sun is setting. Maybe you're sitting in a field, maybe you're under stars. Just imagine that place of ease and feel like you're breathing the feeling of ease in and out of your heart.
Now, as you continue to breathe in and out of your heart, just think about a moment in your life that you're really grateful for. It could be any moment. Just try to be in that moment and really see what you saw, feel what you felt. Just be there now and tune into the frequency of gratitude.
And lastly, breathing in and out of your heart, imagine and recreate something that you really appreciate. Something maybe small and simple, like the feeling of your bed, or maybe someone that's really easy to love, that makes you feel good, or something good that's happened to you this month. Experience it, feel it, with all your senses, appreciate with your heart this thing, this event, or this person.
All right. So yeah, thank you everybody who's watching with us right now. As I was mentioning, we had Waxela on the Quantum Healing Collective, and we went so deep on so many different topics. But I realized that we didn't actually ask Waxela about her origin story. So I was hoping we could start out just learning a little more about this journey, this incredible journey that you're on, and how it all came about.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me, Kyle and Leah. And I'm delighted to be with you again and to be a part of what you're up to. I love what you're up to in the world, and I just appreciate everything you do. And I love your energy together too. You have this really beautiful, balanced energy together. So it's so good to see that. And I love that you're working together as a couple in this work. It's so powerful. So thank you.
Thank you for coming. I'm so excited, and I love everything about you. I love your background. I love just your sparkling beauty. I'm so excited to hear you talk.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so origin story. This is fun. And it's when thinking back on a couple years ago when I was writing my book, and it was the first time I was going to actually share this information publicly with the world. I was pretty terrified to put this out there. And now it's just, it's very fluid and easy for me to share, and even fun. So I want to presence that just for anyone who hesitates to share their woo-woo or their weird stuff, right? Because the more I share it, the more comfortable I get in sharing it. And then it gives other people permission to share those things as well. And you can be woo-woo and grounded at the same time, right?
Yes.
You can. It is difficult to master, and it's a rare person who does both.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think we can all do it. The first step is owning it. Like, I'm owning my story and telling it, right? So
no, that's what I was talking to Leah about earlier, about you specifically, about how you are bringing these topics that most people would like, the first time they are introduced to this stuff in their life would be like, oh, that's crazy. You make it so authentic and so believable and so real that it's like, it doesn't feel woo-woo to me when you talk about it. It just feels like it's genuinely coming from your heart. And I wholeheartedly believe everything you're saying.
Yeah, well, thank you. It is my story, and it's my truth. And, everybody gets to choose what they believe. It's never my job to convince anyone. It's just my job to share my truth, right? Right. Yeah. Same for all of us. So starting at the beginning, when I was very young, and I'm going to say somewhere around the age of 3 years old, I remember being in my bed. My mom is in the bathroom down the hall, which was comforting to me. I could hear her as I was going to sleep. And I was on a second story bedroom, in a second floor bedroom of a house at the top of a hill. And a light showed up at my window. And I just remember, even at that young age, thinking that's strange to see a light at my window, because first of all, no cars really, it was rural Iowa. There weren't really any cars on that hill. There were only a couple houses up there. One of them was ours. So it was just really weird. And that light wouldn't come in my window anyway. And so what happened was the next thing I knew, there was a presence, there was a being at my window. And it was completely unrecognizable to me. And then I found myself inside of kind of like a chamber or a tube. And I felt this pressure, this really intense pressure all over my body. And it really scared me. So I was struggling and fighting, and I was trying to scream, but I couldn't move and I couldn't make any sound. And I don't know how long it went on for, but what I know is finally, like, after really struggling as hard as I possibly could, I got to the side of my bed, and I like kind of fell over to the side of my bed, and I was stuck, like suction to the side of my bed. And it felt like prickles, like these tingly, prickly feelings, like when your foot goes to sleep and it's like, it's uncomfortable, really uncomfortable, right? But you don't forget that feeling. It's really intense. And then finally, I don't know how long I was stuck there, but then it all went away, whoosh, just like that in a split second. And I fell to the ground. And I stood up, and I was, completely unclear on what just happened. And then I I heard in my mind, don't tell the adults, they won't understand. And then I got back in bed and put the covers over my head and went back to sleep like nothing happened.
No big deal.
Yeah. So that was my first memory of my experience. So I had all these flashbacks of that first experience, that was kind of like my original experience. And so as an adult, many, many years ago now, but as an adult, I went to a regression hypnotherapist and said, I had this experience when I was a kid, and I keep getting these flashes of this very strange looking being. And I know something really amazing and powerful happened, but I don't understand what happened. Will you help me clear it up? And so in that session, I got to go back and revisit all of it, first experiencing it, but then as I came outside, the practitioner had me step outside of the experience and watch, and then I got to interview the being that was there. So that was really helpful. So it was a cricket being. I did not even know that insectoids were a thing before that, but I would see, and I was terrified of crickets growing up too, interestingly. But I would see this cricket being with, it had like a cricket looking head and then like a spacesuit on. It just looks like some sort of spacesuit. And he was at my window, and then there was this big silver, like shimmering cord connected to like a cocoon that I was inside of. And so I got to ask him, first of all, who are you and what's going on here with me as a small child? And he told me, I'm just here to do my job. He was just the practitioner, like the soldier, he was just doing his job. He wasn't really the one in charge. And I'm like, but what is this cord? And what is this chamber? What's happening? And so he said, well, this was a pre-incarnational agreement. This cord is connecting you to your council of light. And this is how you send and receive information. You chose this path before you came. You let me know I was a star seed, which I was already aware of. And so that was a connection to send and receive information to my galactic council. So, years later, I went through a big sovereignty time of my life experience, and I chose to cut that cord. And not because it was malevolent in any way, but because I just wanted to make that choice for myself. And now I feel like that I actually can channel more directly after that, after cutting that cord. It's no longer a passive sort of experience, but it's when I choose, then I can tune into that information. So that was my first experience.
Oh my. Yeah. And so now that we have the backdrop of like who you are and where you come from, which is incredible, because that's not necessarily experience everybody has. But I do think there's a lot of people out there that have had probably experiences like that at some point along their journey, and they don't really know what to do with it. So like for me, I actually had an experience like that, but I've never really went anywhere with it or talked to anybody about it. So I'm curious, just like when you work with people, how do you help them with this information? And then how do you help them through the ascension process? Because I know that's something that is like something you're really into helping people do, is ascend.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I do attract a lot of people that are star seeds, and well, as a galactic shaman, which is my, what I am now. And to me, that means I have that conscious communication with my galactic family, who are many races, not just one. And so that is, I believe, the way that one becomes a galactic shaman. And I'm also trained in native shamanism, which is another amazing story, where I had a walk-in, my twin flame walked into a body and trained me for 3 years and then exited. So that's where I got most of my shamanic training. And where I learned to use those things that, that kind of like our intuitive abilities that we all have most of us, they go untapped or they go unharnessed, and we don't really know what to do with them. Yeah. So that was a period of time where I was really trained in how to use my abilities for myself and others. So yeah, so when people come to me and they're having these experiences, first of all, I love to give people permission to have the experience you're having. And if you're experiencing receiving information from, from your channel, from your divine source, from your galactic family, from your guides, from whoever that is, the first step, a lot of people question that and they don't trust it, right? Myself included in the beginning. I wasn't clear on what does this mean? Who is this from? Is it safe? Right. So the very first thing that I would say to do is put yourself in a bubble of protection. Call in your whoever it is, whether the divine, whether it's God, whether it's religious, if it's Jesus, if it's the angels, if it's whatever that is for you, the universe, the golden realm, fortify your light and your container of protection so that you feel safe and protected. And there's really valid reason to do that because not everything in the universe is benevolent. So it's the yin and the yang. We have both, dark and light forces. And so you want to be surrounded in light. You want to feel comfortable. You want to feel protected before you enter into these multidimensional spaces where you're becoming vulnerable. And so then to, just to really start to open up your heart. And I do believe that all of this is through the heart. Our vulnerability is through the heart. As we open that up, that's when we're able to start receiving information from the divine, but from within. And so when I talk about ascension, I really teach embodied ascension. It's not about getting out of the body. It's about bringing more of your own divine presence into the body and raising our ability to hold light and presence within this incarnation, because we're here for a reason. We have this incarnation, this body, for such a short time, and we have it for a reason, and it is perfect. It is perfectly designed to support us on this journey. And it contains all of the information from this incarnation and all others. And so to really get in touch with it and love it and support it and embrace it and clear it when, constant clearing and shadow work is part of that. And letting ourselves be more present in this body so that we can interface with our ascension, which is raising the vibration of our presence in the body, the way that I share and teach it.
Do you have specific practices for that? It seems like this is actually something we were just talking about this morning, about this dichotomy between the Course in Miracles lesson that we were doing is about not being a body, which I know I'm not a body. I do have that concept, but then I've been doing a lot of things that are body meditations, body awareness. So I would be very interested when you started talking about this idea of embodied ascension.
Yeah.
I would love to hear what you have as practices or as ways to make that come to completion, because it almost seems like it's a paradox that, it's like you want to be in your body, but then you're not. You are the spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love Course in Miracles. I think as you're speaking, like what's coming to mind to put that into context is if you think about human history, we started out as sort of primal people, cavemen, and we evolved and we evolved and we evolved. So back then it was really all about survival. There wasn't any time to explore higher concepts and spiritual, ideas. You're not thinking about, and still today, people aren't thinking about spiritual ideas when they're just trying to survive or starving or trying to get their family fed, or, we don't explore higher consciousness in survival mode. So we ascended from, our consciousness ascended, our presence, we got to a point where we're able now to be able to support ourselves. We don't have to protect ourselves. Usually, the majority of people don't have to protect ourselves from predators and don't have to worry so much about where am I going to get food and how am I going to survive, right? Day to day. And then we got to be able to explore higher concepts. In that process, I think a lot of the teachings were necessarily about, you're not just your body. You are this divine spirit. And so the teachings became about convincing people that no, you're not the body. You're the divine. You're just experiencing being in body. So now I feel like for me anyway, it's the time to realize, of course, we're all of it. We as consciousness are at the highest level. We're all the same being experiencing itself in all of these different ways. And as the piece of consciousness that we are when we become individuals and we come into these bodies, we get to have this very special technology, this human body that has amazing capabilities, that's capable of things that most people, can have only dreamed of. But as we ascend our frequency, ascend our ability to hold light and bring more presence into the body, we are capable of being multidimensional, of interfacing and interacting with galactics, with light beings, with high dimensional expressions and beings that just want to communicate and share with us and assist us on our journeys. And the more we open up to that and bring that, for me, it's bringing it in and expressing through the heart center a desire to experience more, then we get to be so much more in these bodies. And that is what embodied ascension is all about.
Oh, I love that. And you had mentioned previously about releasing blocks, on the path to embodied ascension. How do you help people clear up their limiting beliefs? Because I know there's a lot of struggle out there, a lot of people, caught in a lot of their limiting beliefs. And I know this is something you really focus on.
Absolutely. So I like to say, you can think of it, there's a lot of different ways to say it, but new level, new devil. So every time we level up, there's a new layer of shadow work that gets to be cleared for us to maintain that level of light. So what that looks like is, you can think of it, as going up a spiral staircase. We're always going up, but we come to the light side, and then we go up a little farther and we come around to the dark side. And then that's where the shadow work is. So if we had already cleared the shadow, we would already be at that space. It just goes together like the yin and the yang, the dark and the light. When we move up and when we ascend our body's ability to hold more light, this can happen from a near-death experience, it can happen from a deep meditation experience, it can happen sometimes spontaneously, it can happen from a plant medicine experience, it can happen from all different ways that it can happen from meditation and just really doing your breath work and doing heart work and practicing day by day. It could be incremental, or it could be this massive awakening moment, and anything in between. So as we do that, we must expand our capacity to hold that light. So that is why the shadow work is so essentially necessary. And this is why also people will say, oh, but I already did that. I already worked through that. I've done my shadow work. I'm done with that now. I spent 20 years. It doesn't matter. You get to keep doing it, and it doesn't have to be difficult. And so I do try and bring it to kind of make it fun and playful, the way that I teach my clients to do shadow work. So one of the things that you can do, this is a very simple practice. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's simple to do. So it's a practice of noticing. So every time you get triggered is in upset, annoyed, irritated, every time something triggers you, you make a practice of noticing, oh, I'm triggered. I'm, just the fact that you noticed You get to celebrate that. Yay, I just caught myself being triggered. Because,
Yay, I'm so annoyed.
you know, and you're not only, you're noticing, you're bringing consciousness and awareness to it, but you're also shifting your annoyance in your celebration,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
for sure.
here's what you do. You keep a trigger journal. And every time you get annoyed, you write it down, you celebrate that you caught it. And then you're bringing awareness. And then what you're doing is you're making it, you're basically making a map. So at the end of, we'll say like a week, if you do this for a full week and you're noticing what was the situation where I was triggered, you will, if you're really diligent about contemplating, what triggered me and why, you'll be making a map to what I call the dark seed. So the dark seed, and I also call it the dark seed of the heart. This is like your core program that is that original false program that we all have something that all of our triggers, all of our upsets, all of our self-defeating thoughts come from. It's lack consciousness. And my personal theory is that started at original separation. So for instance, mine always goes back to feeling rejected in one way or another, in all of its many forms. Like it could be being overlooked for, let's say there's a speaking engagement I want to be on and I'm overlooked for it, or being cut off in traffic, or not being invited out with friends, or whatever, some version of that. That's all rejection, right? Not getting asked out on a date or whatever those are the things that I would find when I was first doing this work. Those are the situations that upset me the most. And they all stem back to rejection, which to me, when I really trace it back to the original moment, where did that come from? It came from separation from source, from being rejected from oneness. And that's not because something's wrong with me or I'm bad. That's because I am that consciousness. We all are that oneness that wants to experience itself in many different ways. And you can't do that if you stay in oneness. So to get that concept, it's all stemming back to that. That's my dark seed. You know, you might have a different version of that, or it might be something else for others. But when you trace it all the way back, you're going to find out like, okay, it's not something inherently wrong with me. It's actually a choice that I made a long time ago to experience myself in a different way.
Oh, I love that.
Do you have a trace back that you think of that's more human in nature for that?
Sure. Well? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So if you, obviously that's a pretty multidimensional, deep, and I've been doing that work
back to that.
That's the original.
There's usually something, right, that you can pick out that's from your childhood.
From your childhood, exactly. I've had clients that have gone through this work who have remembered being back in the womb and feeling unwanted by mom, or feeling unwanted by dad, or hearing their parents I'm getting chills as I'm talking about this. This is going to land for someone. Remembering their parents arguing before they were even born and thinking, this is a mistake. I shouldn't be coming here. That thought pre-incarnationally, like right before birth. Yeah. Or even like, I think there was, I remember when like hearing the mom screaming at labor, at birth, like, oh, wow, I must be a horrible, horrible being to cause such pain to my mother. Right. Wow. So and those are all the way back to the beginning of this human life. Of course, there can also be past lives that they'll go to, but there can also be things in childhood. But generally, those patterns have been put in place even before we incarnate, because I would say pretty much everyone on the planet, this is not our first incarnation. We've been other places, we've done other things. So it'd be very rare to find someone who this is their very first go at a life in some form, right?
Yeah, I love that trigger journal. I'm gonna use that. And
I've been keeping a trigger journal for months. No,
Really?
I'm just kidding. No, I'm just joking.
I actually never get triggered, so I'm not gonna have to celebrate anything. No.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
I have done something like that. I am actually pretty aware of I could make a little chart of triggers and what they all
yeah.
go to in the center.
Yeah, we love the practices. So really thank you for that. And one thing I also wanted to ask you about was another practice I have is just making sure I practice gratitude, because what I found was like my default mode, like most of my life, was fear. So the more I can practice gratitude, the more I start expanding that in my life. And I saw that you had a gratitude series, and I think maybe some of our listeners would be really interested in that. If you could just talk about what that is, its intention.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, gratitude is everything. I
Mm.
mean, attitude. First of all,
Yeah.
back that up a little. Attitude is everything. And if you think about our attitude, we always get to choose how we feel. That doesn't mean we're going to choose in the moment of being triggered. We have that moment of recognizing, of noticing, but you can bring that recognizing and noticing to every aspect of life. So when you find yourself, for instance, in a partnership like your own, if you're getting annoyed by something the other
Okay.
person's doing, not that that ever happens to you too, right? But if you find yourself getting annoyed, even, with your partner, with your parents, with your child, with anybody in your life, with the person at the grocery store or whatever that is, like look at, okay, how can I choose a better attitude in this
Mm.
experience? And what you'll find happens, we just have a habit of going to that victimization or righteousness in, well, I deserve better than this situation, or they're not honoring the truth of my being. Again, dark seed program popping up, right? So
Yeah.
if you can look at that and say, how can I become more masterful of my attitude right now? How could I choose
Mm.
love instead of, fear? How can I choose, which is basically, where we're going, but how can I choose to be, what can I choose to be grateful for right now in this moment? And just having, like, it's really good to have something in your mental pocket that you can call on. For me, it's always the birth of my children.
Yes.
Most of us don't naturally have the ability without practice to generate gratitude just like that, right?
Yeah.
That's a practice that we can develop just like any other practice, like learning to read, like learning a new language. I don't expect anyone to be able to for me to just say, now feel gratitude. Most people, that's something you have to cultivate. And so to have these practices like the trigger journal, where you were eventually contemplating and then finding a way to shift your attitude to a better attitude. It's not always going to be straight from anger or upset or being triggered and annoyed to now I'm grateful, but you can choose a better feeling thought in every moment, right? So you can choose to go to a neutral, like, okay, instead of being annoyed and upset, I'm going to look for compassion, or I'm going to look for, where can I just feel like neutral about it instead of angry? And then it's like turning the dial. You can gradually increase. But if you have an experience in your life, some people don't, automatically have a go-to for this, but if you can find one where you were just so grateful, and for anybody who's had a baby, I think just the moment that you see your baby's face for the first time, for me anyway, that is like, there's nothing but gratitude and love there. And I didn't care about any of the pain. I did natural childbirth. I didn't care about any of that. And when I saw my babies, right? So I always have that, like, okay, I can always go there and cultivate. And now I don't need to go, to generate that. But in the beginning, to have something that you can remember, you remember the feeling in your body. How did it feel? And, like for me, when I saw, my daughter was my firstborn. So when I saw her every fear, every concern, every bit of pain I ever experienced, it was just gone because, oh my gosh, there's this being that is now present because of, because she came through my body, and wow, it's a miracle. It's such a miracle. And there's nothing but joy and gratitude and excitement there. So not everyone has given birth to children or has children. So if there's something you can find, maybe it's when you fell in love, or, when a parent expressed pride, or I'm proud of you, or it could be anything like that. But just to find a moment where you felt so grateful to be alive, to draw on that and then cultivate that. Remember the feeling in your body and practice it. Make it a practice and cultivate it. And then practice bringing it to those situations in your life they're challenging. So that, and the idea is to get to the point where someone can just say, okay, feel gratitude, and your body knows what to do. Yeah. So yeah. And I wanted to unpack that because I don't expect anyone to just already know how to do that. Very few people just have that automatically.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for your gratitude series where you interview people, is that kind of like what you're trying to cultivate, that feeling?
Well, that was actually a series that I was interviewed on. That was Nicola Henderson's series, where she went to all of her mentors that had been part of her kind of awakening and unfolding. So cool. And so I was one of her speakers. But it's a beautiful series where she invited all of these different people that had really positively impacted her life and helped her unfold in the last couple of years.
That's amazing. The other thing that I saw that you taught on is using the feeling for manifestation. I think a lot of our listeners would be interested in hearing you explain that a little bit. So as we tune into these elevated emotions, those feelings, those memories, what does that do for manifestation?
Yeah. Well, first of all, to know that goes both ways. So if you're, whatever it is that you're working on manifesting, it's really, again, bringing awareness and presence and knowing, like getting clear on this is what's going on. And a lot of times if we want to manifest, let's say our beach house, like something, if that's your big special thing. For me, that's one of them. I'd love to have a property on the ocean, right? It also brings up all of the things in the way of that. So we've got to do the shadow work in order to have that manifestation. Otherwise, if you're sitting and contemplating, thinking, all right, so I'll just walk you through the process. We'll use the beach house because that's kind of an easy one. Sitting out on the patio or on the lanai and feeling the ocean breeze, and the air is full of those beautiful negative ions from the water, and you can hear the sound of the ocean waves gently rolling in, and there might be sand on your feet from walking on the beach, and it could be sunset. So the gorgeous colors of the sunset are all in front of you, and you're just feeling the joy of being there, and you're looking around at your beautiful home and feeling, feeling how grateful you are for having it. And then looking at, okay, who is here with me? Maybe it's your partner, maybe it's your children, maybe it's your friends. And what do you do in that house? And then you walk into the dining room, and maybe you're having dinner or wine with friends and family. And then you look at the bedrooms, and you go room by room, and you look at all these beautiful things and spaces that you've created. Look out the windows. What do you see out there? What is the foliage like around your home? What are the floors like? What is the ceiling like? What kind of decor do you have around? What color is the comforter in your bedroom? How does it feel to lie on that bed and look out the window? And what, all of those things, you go room by room, step by step, and really feel. And here's a key piece: to feel from being in it, not a bird's eye view, but your body walking around step by step, room by room. What does it feel like to be here now? How does my heart feel? How joyful am I to be in this space? How does it smell? And maybe there's aromatherapy. Maybe you have lavender smell in the room, or maybe you're burning incense or sage. And do you have a special space where you meditate? How does that room feel? And what type of special things do you have? What sacred objects are there? And then walking into the other rooms, going into the garage. What kind of car is parked in the garage? And how does that feel? So really going into every single space and place and designing it and feeling from being there. Sitting down at the breakfast table, feeling the chair under you, feeling the countertop. If you're sitting at the counter in the kitchen, what is it made out of? How does it feel? Is it smooth like granite? And then who is there with you? And what is your relationship? What are you feeling in being with that person? And you can get into the tiniest details. What am I eating? And what am I drinking? How does the water, that if you're taking a drink of water, how does that taste and feel? And how is it different having it in that space versus any other space that I've been in the past? And how grateful do you feel to be in this space that you have created and manifested this experience? So this is feeling from the space of being there. This is being in that place and generating it from the experience of already happening, versus the bird's eye view of seeing it as if it was somewhere else. This is your life, your experience. You can do this with anything you want to create. A job, maybe it's, and my daughter did this for a phone call, like for a job that she wanted. It was a internship. She was up against 60 other students applying for an internship. She was no more qualified than any of the others. And she imagined getting the phone call where they said, you've got it, you've got the job, you've got the internship. And she imagined celebrating. And a couple days later, she got the call and she called me after. She said, it was exactly like I imagined. I got it. And they said exactly the thing that I imagined they would say. So this is how to create from. So you want to put yourself in the space, in the now, in the body, feeling the feelings, being present there, creating it, whenever I do this, I really write down and get clear on all of those details and then hold that for yourself. But don't make it like a clinging, like I must have this, right? Because then it's like, I like to say, it's like swimming when you're swimming in the pool or at the ocean, you've got the beach ball, you're trying to get it and you're swimming toward it and you keep pushing it away. It's like going farther away from you because you're swimming toward it and the waves are pushing it away. Manifestation can be like that. If your energy is like, I must have it, you're actually pushing it away. So to put it out there, to feel the joy of already having it, of already experiencing it, like, yes, I know this is there for me, and letting that be enough, just feeling that joy and that gratitude. This is for a partner too. You could do this for manifesting your partner, feeling like instead of going to bed at night feeling, oh, I really feel lonely. I wish I had a partner with me. I wish someone was here, and I don't want to be alone. Instead of going there, go to, oh, I love the feeling of having a partner with me. I love snuggling. I love, whatever that is, if it's spooning. And I love the feeling of just that other person next to me. And I feel so comfortable and content and safe and joyful. Going to sleep that way is going to manifest your partner versus, if you're thinking, oh, I wish, or, like what you don't have, what you focus on, you get more of. And it will bring up everything in the way of having that. So it's like, that's just one piece. The envisioning and manifesting from is the first piece, but then notice there's going to be a part of you, probably, maybe not every time, but there's likely to be a part of you that says, but I don't have that. but I'm not worthy of that, but I'll probably never get that. And so then it's important not to squelch that part, not to like try and bury that or pretend it doesn't exist, but to really let it have a voice. Okay, where is this coming from? Let's bring awareness to it. What do you need? Like treat it like a child. What do you need? What do you want to say? Tell me everything. Tell me everything you have to say. Why do you not feel good enough? What part of you doesn't feel worthy? What do you need? How can I support you? And let it have its voice and its say, because this is a part of you that's going to block. It's going to block that experience until it's addressed, right? Until it's remedied. And we can't clear it. We can't address it by ignoring it. So I feel like this is why a lot of manifestation techniques don't work, because if you're, it's great to have the vision board. It's great to have, to do the practices. But if we're pretending that part of us that's not worthy is not there, then that's just like brushing it under the rug. And until that's addressed and really acknowledged and loved up and given a voice, we can't work with what we don't see.
Right.
If we don't know it exists, if it's subconscious, how can we make a change? So this is really all of these techniques, everything that I brought up, it's about bringing what's behind us, what's subconscious, into the front, like bringing it, I would say what's behind our head, we can't see. What's in front of us, we can see. So bringing those things that are subconscious and behind us to the front, that's what we celebrate. Oh, wow, I can see it now. And if you do these practices and then really let yourself notice what's in the way and what's coming up for me and what unworthiness, what imposter syndrome, what, like, oh, you'll never have that. Listen to those parts. Give them a voice, because then you can work with them. Then you can let them free and clear them, and then really step into the embodiment of the one who does have the manifestation that you desire.
That is such an important lesson. I would love to hear more too, because I was reading a lot about your website and how heart is so important in the things you teach other people. So I'd love to hear your perspective on our heart in the ascension process.
Yes. So for me, in all of my, and I know we talked about my origin story. I just gave you the very first piece, one bite of the pie. But I've been given over my journey, which I've been on this path 30 years. So, I've had a lot of experience, but I've been given 5 divine light technologies from the divine. So divine light technologies are these, I believe that we all have access to them. We just aren't aware of them. So they're things that can be recognized and then activated within us. So one of those, and I would say probably the most important one, is I call it the infinite light of the heart, or the diamond light of the heart. And the heart, I'll just kind of briefly share what this entails. The heart, and I'm not talking about the physical muscle of the heart, but the portal of the heart, the center of the heart, the energetic center, is a hologram of the divine, of the whole. And so within that heart center, we have access to everything that exists. And because of that, we can, when we go within, we can go within the heart, within the portal of the heart, and access any dimension, any experience, any star system, any galactic communication. That can all be done from going within the portal of the heart, because a hologram contains the whole. It's like a fractal of the whole. It has the infinity. Like, we as these human bodies contain access to infinity through the portal of the heart when it's activated, when it's open, when we're willing to go there. You know how a lot of plant medicine experiences will kind of blow a person's heart open in a way, and it's like, like it can be really, really overwhelming, right? But once we have access, you don't have to do an overwhelming plant medicine journey to get there. Just saying that can happen that way. Right. Also, a near-death experience can open the heart portal. But once we have access, then it can be really scary. So then it's the willingness to practice, like like all of the other practices, all of this is a practice. The willingness to like, okay, I'm going to courageously go and explore within. I find this so much more, more powerful than going out of body and safe, because we're going within. When we go within, everything we encounter is us. So if we meet a demon inside, through the portal of the heart, that demon is a part of us saying, I need attention. There's shadow work to do here, right? When we go out of body, I don't know, I can't vouch for everything that's out there. Not everything is going to be so kind. So it's really about going in and being courageous and having the courage to explore and unlock and find those things. And what's going to come up is our demons first. Just like I said before, a new level, new devil. So every time we sort of reach a new frontier, there will be a sort of a guardian. And sometimes that guardian looks scary. And it's to challenge us. Are you really ready to go here? Are you really ready to step into this new level and this new experience of yourself? And to look at that demon and see yourself in it and say, and own it. Yes, I realize I am that. That darkness is part of who I am. I embrace that part of myself that isn't always light, that isn't always perfect, that isn't always, whatever, fill in the blank. And then that's what melts the demon. And then we get to go farther and go deeper. And it's really important to know that anything that shows up in the heart is there for you. It's there to help you. It's there to assist you in your experience. And whatever it looks like, it's always there to assist you in getting to the next level of mastery of self. And you put it there. So there's nothing there by accident, and I hear so many people say, well, I did a meditation and something really scary happened, or I had a plant medicine journey and something really scary happened, or when, whatever, and I saw demons or something really scary. Yes, that's okay. That happens. And it's meant to happen because that is you, that is your darkness facing you and saying, can you handle me? Because you're going to have to handle me to go to the next level of your light. Because there will be another one of me and it's bigger and it's badder, right? And then so it's embedded in this reality. It is the yin and the yang, the dark and the light. And it's to get over seeing it as good and bad. It's just the way it's designed. And to be able to embrace all of that, that's what it takes to hold power and hold presence and hold your expansion and your transformation. And as you're leveling up your presence and your ability to hold light, you're also leveling up your courage and your power and your ability to handle the dark.
Oh, that's amazing. So I'm also curious. I saw that you have some breathwork activities that you teach. So what does that do to the people you work with? How do you use it? What's its importance to you?
I'm so glad you asked that. Yes, I call it Ascension breathwork. This breathwork. So just a little backdrop. I've been doing breathwork as a student of breathwork for many, many years, over a decade. And I was a couple years back, I was in a breathwork class that someone else was doing. As I was breathing, I saw this series. It sort of dropped in as a download. I could say that dropped in as a download, this series of breathwork, and how doing that is actually a way to quickly clear layers and layers and layers of shadow, layers and layers of trauma, lifetimes of trauma. And doing this specific, it's 5 different breaths that we go through. It allows a person to let go of the trauma and then expand your ability to hold light, expand your ability to hold yourself, your higher self, to embody yourself more. And there are a number of different breathwork sessions that I've done that I've recorded. But as a person goes through Embodied Ascension training, which is the 6-month course that I do, they're doing this breathwork alongside of all of the lessons and modules. And so each one sort of takes you to a new layer, a new level of yourself. And then the breathwork helps you clear whatever's in the way of being there. So it really is, and you don't have to be doing my course in order to do the breath work. But what happens is it's clearing and it's expanding your ability to hold light or hold your presence. So it's multidimensional breath work, and it does take people to places. I had a woman, a client just the other day say, and she's not in my ascension training program. She's just doing the breath work, but she said, she feels like she's never done any breath work before, and she's been doing this. And she said, I feel like after doing the breath work, I fall into and below my mat, and I go into such a deep state of rest and fatigue. She's like, that it's like nothing I've ever experienced before. And she's having multidimensional experiences. And she's like, what does this mean? And I'm like, it's the way your body's processing it. You're releasing trauma. That the cool thing about it is that a lot of times trauma is being released, lifetimes of trauma, in the form of patterns, because trauma is everything that we're experiencing first starts as a pattern. So you're restructuring your patterns, you're clearing your patterns. You can release lifetimes of trauma and a pattern of trauma that's been passed down through your genetic lineage without even knowing consciously where it came from or why. You don't have to process it through your mind in any kind of analytical way. It is a physical embodiment practice that allows the body, that stores everything, right? It stores everything from our galactic heritage, from our physical genetic lineage, so many generations back, and everything we've experienced as a soul. You can release things and repattern and realign and harmonize to a new level without even knowing mentally what it is that you're doing. Now, sometimes it does trigger memories and mental stuff, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine. But sometimes it's just going to unload, 10 generations of garbage that you just don't need to carry anymore. And the reason you don't need to carry it is because you're doing this ascension work, and your practices and your frequency, your embodiment frequency has expanded to a level where it's just not compatible to hold that trauma anymore.
Wow. I am so grateful that our collaborative is getting to just listen to you and hear you. Such an amazing soul.
Thank you.
Yeah. One thing that, another big topic that a lot of people just will mention, but not everybody necessarily has an understanding of what it is the new earth. And I know that you speak about it. So could you just give me your take on the new earth, what it is, and where we're at in that process? Yeah.
I love this. I love this topic. So this is truly one of the reasons that I, as the being that I am, came here, is to pave the pathway for us to get from where we are to where that is. And just to break this down, the new earth is the higher dimensional experience of life on earth. It's not actually a different place. It is the same earth, but the earth herself is ascending. So she is moving up in her frequency, and this gives all of us who are on the earth as humans at this time, we have the opportunity to also ascend with her. That's why we're hearing so much about ascension now, and why so many people are sharing this information and practices on how to do this, because as she's ascending, the energy is changing, the frequency is changing, and we can either change along with her and expand our abilities to ascend or not. And it is a personal choice. It's a soul choice. So many souls came here for this experience. We have this great opportunity to level up as a soul. Doesn't mean it's easy. And then some people will not. And for some people, it's not appropriate and it's not what they chose. They came here to stay and work something out. Maybe it's suffering, maybe it's trauma, whatever that is. And that's okay too. We will eventually all get where we're going because we all came from the same source. So for those of us that are playing the New Earth game, it is, there is more light coming on to the planet right now. And that's because of the Andromedan galaxy is actually, so our galaxy and the Andromedan galaxy are twin flame galaxies, and they're coming together. They're coming closer together. So as they're coming closer together, the Andromedan galaxy is bringing new light to our planet. It's bringing new light to our galaxy. And so we get to benefit from that expansion of light. And, when you get into the frequency of it, you can feel it. It's like a tingly feeling. The pattern behind me, the Sri Yantra, is an Andromedan. Andromedan energy is very, it's like sacred geometry and patterns. And we can experience it through looking at patterns. And we are all made up of patterns. So the New Earth is also a frequency. There's a pattern there. So to start to kind of, to open up to it, all of these practices will help you open up to it. And just the desire to be a part of the New Earth is going to open up the experience for you. And there's so much information. I'm like trying to think, what's the best way to share? The New Earth, like you'll hear the golden realm. You hear about the golden realm. The energy frequency, or the frequency experience of the New Earth is golden. And when I look at the New Earth, I always see a golden light around it. So even something simple like putting yourself in golden light, like imagining a golden light around you as you meditate, is going to help open the door into that higher frequency experience. So the dimensions are layered. We'll just say, I'm going to make it easy to say 3D and 5D. There's the third dimension, which is physicality. And I'm not even going to differentiate from density. I know there's in the law of one, it's density, but let's just make it easy and say dimension. So there's 3D and 5D. We'll say 3D is like the very physical Earth life, and 5D is the higher frequency experience of Earth life. And so as you're meditating and expanding your frequency and holding more light, you're naturally moving in to a fifth dimensional experience. In 5D, and this is the New Earth experience I'm using kind of as a 5D and higher experience of being human on the planet. These are also, you could think of them as different matrices. There's the 3D and there's the 5D. And 3D is kind of like the 9 to 5 that you don't really like to do, but you got to feed your family and find food and like get your bills paid. And the 5D is like, oh my gosh, I'm manifesting and I have my soulmate and I'm loving my life and things are just synchronistic and opportunities are showing up. It's getting in the flow. It doesn't mean everything's always easy and there aren't challenges in the higher dimensions. There are, but we get quicker manifestation when we're there because the frequency is faster and higher. So one thought, and this can work negatively too, a negative thought can manifest a negative experience very quickly. Positive thought can open up the door to more positive experiences. So is this making sense? I'm trying to make it
100%
digestible.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. That's the simplified version. So it's not like there's this big jump where you just go from 3D to 5D and you're done. It's the New Earth is happening now. And it's happening in every moment with every breath. And we can go back and forth. We can be in 5D and then get a phone call about something, horrible we have to deal with. And then it can bring us right back to that quote unquote 3D experience, right? So it's a spectrum.
It's the wrong phone call.
Yeah. It's a spectrum. And then we make that choice though, when you get sucked back in, like, oh, your car's been whatever. We'll just say something negative happened. You can choose how you respond, right? And that response, that bringing awareness and consciousness, how will I respond to this situation? How will I respond to this person? That is going to shift you to naturally to a higher frequency, to a higher experience of life on earth. When you're always looking for, how can I contribute? How can I be compassionate? How can I be generous? What can I be grateful for? How can I be of service? And how can my presence be a contribution to this world? Those ways of thinking and being are going to naturally bring you up to the new earth frequencies, the higher frequency experience of life on earth.
Wow. This has been so incredible.
Yes, I would love to close with, if people want to work with you, you mentioned you have a 6-month course. I would just love to hear how people can work with you, what the different things you offer are.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of my signature course. It's 6 months of embodied ascension where you're really immersed in everything that I talked about and so much more. We even get into galactic shamanism, grid work, and, all of those types of things, clearing, as I talked about, clearing the shadow work, it becomes really easy and fast. And then walking through all of the different ways to ascend yourself, doing the breath work, doing meditation practices, manifesting, and committing to the life that you desire to have. So at the very beginning, we commit to having that life and then commit to finishing the course. And at the end of the course, it's amazing the transformation that people have by the end. So that is that's my sort of best work to give to the world. And you don't have to jump in at that level with me. I also, on my website, I have lots of just individual classes and master classes and series that people can get for as little as $80. Lots of different, I do an Embodied Ascension Foundations course. That's on there where it's kind of all of the key points of ascension without jumping in and doing the whole 6-month program. But if you just want to get on my email list, I'm constantly sending out videos and tips and sharing, wonderful things that I think will be helpful in anybody's ascension process. I also do lots of free things for my list, free classes, in person, on Zoom, in Zoom person, but live, I guess live is the way to say it, live on Zoom. And then I have a retreat coming up in January,
nice.
New Earth, New You, New Year kind of retreat.
Nice.
So that'll be fun. So there are lots and lots of ways to jump into my container and experience more of what I do. It's free to get on my list if anyone just wants to start receiving some of my offerings that way.
Yeah, that's great. We'll put a link to your website.
Yeah, and I feel like we could ask you questions forever. So we're gonna have to have you back on.
At some point.
Well, I would love to do it again.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I need to go and just take an hour to just process all that we've talked about.
Yeah, you could, it'd be great for everyone to just have a notebook at the beginning and write down the practices, because some of the practices that I shared, just doing the trigger journal or, envisioning and manifesting from being in that place and then clearing the shadow that comes up. Those things can make a huge difference in a person's experience.
Yeah.
They do make a huge difference. Even just the trigger stuff, when they analyze brains, if you just name how you're feeling and just describe it, it changes what's happening and how you process it. So on many levels, I think that helps. So I love that. I love a technique or a practice that will be immediately helpful. So thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Yeah, so everyone in the Heart Coherence Collaborative, go follow Waxela. And Waxela, so grateful for this friendship. And just whatever you need from us, we're happy to support you on your journey.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you both so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.